Okay, here we're going to look at SAS Yachtmaster question 7 from the sample questions on page, I think it's 98, where we're looking to cross the English Channel from Cherbourg up to just near the Isle of Wight. This is another multi-tidal exercise. The difference here is we work with a tidal atlas, and we then look at the tide in each area and we estimate what it is, and we come up with the best course to steer as one course to steer over the whole period. So the first thing we need to do, there are a couple of steps we've got to go through here. So first we've got to establish how far is it from our starting point to our finish point. We then look at that and say, well, that is 55 nautical miles. Okay, we've measured it down the side of our atlas, of our chart. Okay, then we then look and say, well, if our boat can do an average of 8 knots, it means we're going to need 7 tidal hour streams. Okay, but now the next thing we've got to do is sort of say, well, what is the tidal stream going to be at the start? We want to start at 11:30. So here we use the tidal atlas. So we need to move over to the atlas and look at it and say, well, if I'm starting around about here and I'm starting at what time of the day is that going to be? Is it going to be 1 hour before? Was it going to be high water, or 1 hour after? Or as you see, the tidal atlas goes all the way through. So just a quick little lesson on the tidal atlas. This is the direction of the tide. The arrows there are the direction of the tide. Then you've got two numbers here. One is, it's actually 1.1, and the other one is 2.2. So we need to establish if it's spring tides, 2.2. If it's neap tides, it's 1.1. So that's what all of this is about. And each tidal hour, from 6 hours before to 6 hours after, we can look at all of this information. The interesting thing about the English Channel is actually pretty straightforward. Before high water, the tide runs that way. After high water, the tide pretty much turns around and runs the other way. And that's why we can use this method of looking for the dominant tide, the tidal, which way it's going, and the difference in the actual speeds to work out one course to steer. So if we go then and have a look, we now need to establish, so first we worked out what our distance was going to be, how many hours we would need. We then had to go to our tidal hour and look at it and say, well, what time of the day, if we wanting to leave at 11:30, what time of the day is that going to be according to high water? So high water on that day, on the 1st of February, was 13:03 was high water. So I'm wanting to leave before then, so I need to find how many hours before, and I've managed to find, okay, well, I need to work with minus 1 hour. The second tidal hour is going to be high water, then it's going to be +1, +2, +3, +4, and +5, because I need 7 of these periods. So I can now take that information, I can go over to my atlas, and I can have a look at what I'm starting with 1 hour before. So where's that? There's 1 hour before, and I'm starting in this area over here. So that would be my tidal stream for the first period. That would be the direction, that little arrow over there. And because it's spring tides, I've already looked at the range, and I've looked at the difference between high and low on that day, and it happens to be a range of 6. If I go to my tidal curve for Dover, that tells me that it's spring tides. That's where we get that information from. So I then get, for my 1 hour before, I have a look and I estimate that I'm going to be slightly higher up an hour later. So I'm probably looking on slack water, high water, it's much the same, still 0.4, but notice the direction has changed. Okay, so I need to make a note of that. And I then go to 1 hour after, and I start to look in this sort of area, and I look at these numbers, and I need to make an interpretation to get a number that I think is closest to where I'm looking. Again, looking at the direction. Okay, I'll go 2 hours after, and I move further up, and exactly the same 3 hours after, I move even further up, 4 hours after, until I've got all my numbers at 5 hours after, and I've created this little table for myself. So this is what I visualized those streams to be. So there's my range. Okay, so I've worked out all of that, and I've said, okay, now if I want to work with the first tidal hour, sorry, I just need to get this thing to move up a little bit. Okay, so we're looking at the first tidal hour was a 095, a set and a rate of 0.4. The second, that high water, that was what I got. High water plus 1, plus 2, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5 gave me 7 hours of tidal periods. I got a total of 12.5 here. This is my dominant direction. The difference between the two is 12.01. Now I take all of that information and I move over to my chart again. So let's have a look at my chart, and what I've done here is I've said, okay, I'm starting over here and I'm ending over here. My tidal stream is 12 knots. Okay, so that distance is 12 and the direction was 270 degrees. I then look at it and say, well, we spoke about a boat speed of 8 knots and we're using 7 hours. Therefore, I need to arc off 56 nautical miles. So my divider is opened and I arc it off on my course over ground. Keep in mind that this could arc off further, which means the tide was with me, or it could mark off less, which means the tide was against me. Because we've got a tidal stream running virtually straight across, there's not a lot of effect, and we've ended up pretty much right on our spot, which is kind of unique, but just keep in mind that this will happen if we've got a perfect world like this, but you can overshoot or undershoot, and you're going to have to adjust your ETA, your estimated time of arrival, according to your actual boat speed, just like you do a normal CTS, and you measure the actual boat speed and adjust it according to the distance you need to do. Okay, so I need to take this one step further, so let me just tidy this up a little bit. And the question that I got asked was, they wanted a ship's course to steer, and they also said there was a effect of 5 degrees of leeway with a westerly wind. So if I look at this, my course to steer over here was 0.11 degrees. I'm going to have to steer, because the wind is blowing like that, I want to compensate for that, so I'm going to have to steer 5 degrees that way, which means my true is going to be 0.06 degrees. My variation, magnetic deviation, and ship's compass for the area, they tell me I've got 3 degrees of west, which means it's 0.09. They tell me there's no deviation, which means my course to steer is 0.09 degrees. Ship's compass. My ETA is going to be starting at 11:30 plus 7 hours. My ETA therefore plus minus 18:30. Okay, hope that helps. Any questions, give me a shout. Thanks.